Welcome to the B2B Legend Show by Oneflow. I'm Josephine, your host, and on this show we dive into the stories behind some of the legends in the B2B world. Each episode we chat with industry leaders to explore their journeys, challenges, and insights. In today's episode we're joined by Cedric Notz, CEO and co-founder of Float, who shares his journey from Olympic alpine skiing to starting a business. We'll explore how his Olympic experiences shaped his entrepreneurial mindset, the value of persistence, and why enjoying the journey is essential for success. Hello everyone and welcome. Today we have Cedric Notz here, CEO and founder of Float. Thank you so much for being here and welcome to the show, Cedric.
Thanks, Josephine.
I'm really looking forward to chatting to you today and get to know you and your career. So let's just dive right into it. So if you could kind of walk us through from where you began to where you are now and how you ended up there.
Sure. I mean, just to give you a bit of background, I grew up in Switzerland and the Swiss Alps. I started competing quite young at quite a young age in alpine skiing, so from the age of 5, and took that quite seriously during my youth. So until I was about 12, coming into, let's say, the top 5 in Switzerland. And then I had to make a choice at a young age, which was one of the first big choices I had to make in life, and that was to continue my ski career or to continue my education. And I chose to go the education path, and then went to study in university, ended up university in the US, studied finance. And in those days, it was very popular to work in like a big investment bank or in a big consulting company. So I chose the investment banking route, did that for about 10 years, learned a lot, and then got a bit fed up and decided I wanted to be more of an entrepreneur and do something more creative and hands-on. And that's when I started working for a startup in San Francisco. We were 3 people, and now it's 150 people, a very successful startup. And then moved to Sweden and started Float.
So you have started in Switzerland, US, and now you're in Sweden.
Yeah, and so actually in between, let's say, the banking and the startup world, I did also end up competing in the Olympics in alpine skiing. So I followed my childhood dream, which was to compete in the Olympics, but I took a different path than what it would have been traditional for me at the time.
And the Olympics, you have to kind of talk more about that. How first question, how was it to kind of train for it, and then also like being in that environment with all those, because I know people that train for the Olympics are the top percent, and they need to have that kind of drive. And how was it being in that environment?
It's hard to explain in words. It's the most unique experience that I've ever had, a very special experience. When I watched the Olympics now this summer, it brought back a lot of memories. It was extremely emotional because I know what it took to go through there and the experience and the exhilaration of being at such an event. And if you think about the Olympics, it's the most televised event in the world, right? So every country in the world is showing the Olympic Games because every country has participants.
Yeah.
It's a huge event. And my philosophy in life has always been that it's the journey that really matters, right? So for me, the Olympic journey was really what gave me the most. The actual Olympics is the cherry on the cake. That's really like, okay, wow, that's great. But if I didn't go to the Olympics, the journey would have been nevertheless amazing. And, it's everything from the training, from the discipline, the persistence, the pain, the joys, all of it coming together and just continuously fighting to be the best at something and never giving up when many times you feel like giving up. And I think a lot of things I learned from this journey taught me also my professional journey. It's not always going to be easy. There are moments where you feel like you want to give up. There are going to be major challenges. When I was skiing, not every year was a good year. Some years were bad. I wasn't as good, and the best times I was in the top 5, and the worst times I was in the top 20. and it felt very frustrating not being always on the top of your game. And sometimes you just feel like, why am I doing this? And it's very much like building a business. You will, hit the wall many times, and it happened in the float journey as well. But the experience from the Olympics was really, from the whole journey, was taught me a lot to be able to build a company and make it grow.
You talked about how you really you have bad days, but then you really have to kind of get through those, and you kind of come out on top. Is that something that you feel like you had from an early age when you started, or is that something that you kind of developed as you trained hard for the Olympics?
I would say it's things I learned from a young age. So the persistence of training all the time, no matter what, if it was cold, if I was hungry, if I was thirsty, from the age of 5, because the trainers had discovered that I was quite good at what I was doing, so they were pushing me very hard. And just that feeling that, it can be very painful, and from a very young age, helped me to become quite resistant and persistent. And then just the discipline, just like instead of spending your weekends, playing on your computer or with your friends, you were training or racing. When you're 8, 7, 8, 9 years old, it's maybe not the typical path for most young people. But I also learned the gratification of winning, right? If you put a lot of hard work, the chances are much higher to win than if you don't, right? And the feeling of winning is a very nice feeling that I liked from a young age. And these are the same things that you need, I think, when you want to build a business. There's no difference between the two from these characteristics I'm talking about.
Yeah. Do you have a kind of an example, like when you started Float and your entrepreneurial journey? Do you have an example where you kind of hit the hurdle where you could use kind of the skills that you developed when you trained?
So when I started Float, we were basically a factoring company, right? So the initial concept, and I would say 9 out of 10 businesses start in a very different place than where they end up. Okay. So here it becomes a bit more delicate, right? Because being persistent is good, but not being flexible is bad. So you need to be persistent, but you need to be flexible and realize that something is not working and find a solution. And that's where you become a good entrepreneur. So, when I started Float, I quickly realized that the business I was in was not a good business, actually, at the end of the day, to start it, at least not to start it. It was very competitive, it was very crowded, and more people were entering the market. So then I decided to pivot the company and focus on something quite similar, but onto B2B SaaS companies. So basically providing credit lines to B2B SaaS companies. And that pivot helped me grow my business and make it successful. And being persistent and not giving up, right? And not, when you have a huge challenge and you realize that it's not working, it's not saying, okay, now I give up and start something new or work for something else. It's saying, okay, I have a challenge, thriving off the challenge. So that challenge makes you stronger, fight harder. This is critical because instead of getting put down, you're put up, which energizes you to say, I can overcome this. I'm going to succeed. I know I can succeed. And just finding a way of how to overcome that challenge. And I think that's very much like in skiing. When I, wasn't skiing well one year, I'd have to figure it out and change something to get better again and work really hard at that for a year to be able the next season to come back stronger and better.
Really makes sense. I was also thinking like that kind of the mindset maybe where you, instead of being put down by a challenge, you get like you want to do even better. Do you want to have an advice to improve on that?
So I think if you're like, if it's the same thing as if you're a 20-year-old coming out of university, or whether you're a first-time entrepreneur and you deal with a challenge of building a business, and you'll deal with many challenges. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, actually, that's all you do is deal with challenges most of the days. Is to really focus on learning. And I think if you are as a person want to learn, then this is the perfect opportunity to do something like become a founder or build a business, because it's a constant learning curve. It's going to be painful and there's going to be very difficult moments. And that's like when I was training for my alpine skiing, you have to really learn from them and enjoy it and really enjoy the path and don't focus too much on the destination. Because if you only focus on the destination, you'll never be happy or never be satisfied. Whereas if you're really saying, okay, I'm learning and I'm enjoying the journey, then you're going to be happy and you're going to be in the present and in the now and really maximizing it as much as possible rather than always thinking, oh, if I have to get to this big size, I have to do an exit. Once I get here, I'll be happier or better or whatever. And that's what I meant, that my life philosophy has always been about the journey, and the outcome is a bonus. It's great, but what really gets me excited and out of bed every day is like it's dealing with the challenges every day, but also, really enjoying the journey and everything that I'm learning and making me grow as a human being, as a person, right? You want to grow at the end of the day. That's the goal. And I think you need to have that characteristic of wanting to grow as a human being to be also a successful founder, because it involves a lot of growth, personal growth, professional growth, etc.
Yeah, that is, I mean, that's a good way to kind of think about it, because I feel like even I'm guilty of this myself. You have an end goal, and that is all that you kind of focus on. And also, if you have maybe part goals, you still have that goal that you focus on, but you don't enjoy the journey. And I feel like that is also a good kind of mindset to also stay happier, rather than just chasing and chasing. Kind of be
Exactly.
in the moment and do your best there and there and learn there and there.
I think we all have that. A lot of us have that problem, and I'm not an exception either. I've been working on it and focusing a lot of my time and energy to make sure that it's the journey. I've learned how to really appreciate the journey. It hasn't always been like that. It has been very much, oh, once I get to my goal, I'll be happy. But that's, I realized, a futile philosophy and belief. And unfortunately, a lot of us have that belief. And therefore, we're always chasing something, never really being happy and never being our best. Because if you're not happy, you're not your best, right? So that you need to be at your best to be good, successful. So you might as well, enjoy the ride. And the ride is actually a lot of fun, to be honest. It really is. It really is.
Very good advice. Very like a healthy way to think about life as well. I'm gonna take that on. This is my new mindset from today.
Thanks.
But I do want to also kind of move into float a little bit more. So could you please give us a short explanation of what float is and how it works?
Okay. Let me give you a little bit more background. So basically, both me and my co-founder were founders, and we both were extremely frustrated with getting the funding we needed for our company. So at the time, this was about 5-6 years ago, the only option was really to raise equity, and it took between 6 and 12 months to raise equity. And it's a huge amount of time, and it's about 70% of your time during those 6 to 12 months that you're spending on raising that capital. And it didn't make sense to us that, we lost so much time and we didn't focus on growing our business, and the loss in revenues that we had in that business during that time, because we needed that money. We couldn't make any decisions until we had that money. It was very, very frustrating, stressful, and tiring. I can't think of any founder that actually enjoys doing this. So what we decided to do is set up this company called Float, where we provide founders with a very simple solution to get capital quickly and with very little effort from the founders. And so we wanted to make it as simple and smooth as possible for them. So it's all very IT driven. And the way it works is that they connect with their bank ID to their bank accounts, their accounting software, their subscription management software. We collect all the data. And then once we have all that data, within 2 weeks, we're able to provide them with a credit line, which allows them to, to use that capital to grow their business. They don't have to wait now 12 months or 9 months. They can do it within 2 weeks, hire the people, move to new markets, keep focusing on growing their business, and also buy them time to grow their business to get a better value for their equity. Because these founders work so hard to build their company, they should maximize the value of their shares. And this is what we try to provide them in a simple and easy way that they can, really extend that runway as far as possible before they need to raise another equity round. And the way the product works is it's all digital. It takes them literally 5 minutes to apply online with bank ID and all that. They connect their data points. And then within 2 weeks, they get a credit line. So they don't have to draw all the money at once. They don't have to pay interest all at once on all the capital. It gives them that flexibility and to be most cost efficient as possible by drawing the money when they need it, and also designing each loan that they take when they draw the money the way they want. They can do it 6 months, 12 months, 15 months. It's up to them, really. And giving them the flexibility, the speed, the simplicity has really proven to work very well. And, as I mentioned, since we launched, we're now in 11 countries. So it's clearly something that founders found extremely useful.
It's really, as you said, it feels like a more flexible and kind of there to help the company and make it easy for them to kind of grow and get the funding, in comparison to kind of get a loan from a bank, etc. Then it's only on the bank's terms.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's more, definitely more flexible, and also we are a bit more relaxed. We don't take personal guarantees, equity guarantees, all these restrictions that are usually put on by banks. We don't require that, because for us it doesn't make sense that the founder is giving his life to the company and then he has investors, right? So the investors also own part of the companies, but it's the founders that have to put the personal guarantee on the company, not the investors. So not only are they working and putting their life into the company, they have to put their house onto the company. That didn't make any sense to us whatsoever. And that's why we really tried to make it as simple as possible and with as little restrictions as possible for the founders.
Yeah. And also, from when kind of you started Float, if you don't mind sharing, what was kind of the most expected challenge, and how did you handle it?
So the most expected challenge,
unexpected.
Unexpected.
Sorry. Yeah.
Unexpected. Okay. Well, the most expected is funding. So that we cleared that one. You know that you always have to raise some sort of money to grow. I mean, most of the time. I mean, 80% of companies. A few lucky bootstrap companies don't need to. But the most unexpected challenges, I would say, I think because I have a finance background, I didn't have much IT knowledge. So there I learned a lot and realized the complexity of building an IT platform, a digital platform like what we have. Then I would say the pivoting, that you need to be agile and quick and to be able to move fast when you see something is not working, and finding your niche. So what we did early on, and I think it's one of our successes, is that we were very niche focused, which means that I would strongly advise founders, early stage founders, to be very laser focused and be really good at one thing. And then once you grow, then you can add more products onto it, but don't try to do everything. A lot of companies I've seen who've tried to do that are not around anymore. So I think that was really one of our strengths. I think for me personally, my biggest personal challenge is that from an operational point of view, it was really necessary to find someone who was very operational, and that's my co-founder. That helped a lot in our success journey. I think you need to find co-founders that complement. A good team is someone who's, there's the strategic, the big thinker, the networker, and then you have the much more operational person, and that combination of the two, the chances of success are much higher.
Yeah. Know your strengths and know your weaknesses.
Yes.
Looking a bit more into the future of Float and the future for you as well. So where do you see yourself and Float in the next 5 years?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let's start with Float. I would say I would see Float as, being one of the leaders in Europe in the non-dilutive funding for B2B SaaS companies. I think we will also target new markets in the sense of industries. So lending not only to SaaS, but maybe to other industries as well. We are already in 11 countries, as I mentioned. So all the Nordics, the Baltics, Germany, Austria, Switzerland, Netherlands, and I would like to be in the UK and in other countries in Europe. Basically, I mean, the goal for Float in the next 5 years is really to be all over Europe, to be one of the main players in Europe. What we really strive for is to become, the most founder-friendly lender, the most friendly. Like if you ever go to banks, they're not very friendly.
Yeah. No.
And we try to be very different than the banks. So we are, we care about our founders. We try to help them where we can. We give them advice where we can. So we want to be known as the most founder-friendly lender for sure. And personally, where I want to be in 5 years, I want to be continuing this journey. I really enjoy it. I'm not ready to stop yet. So, just keep growing the business and hopefully having learned even more, because I think what happens is what I think is quite fun as an entrepreneur, for me personally, is the whole journey, because you start as a startup, then you become a scale up, and then you maybe become more of a mature company. But each phase of the company is a huge learning experience. You have to become a different person. When you're a startup, you're doing everything. When you're a scale up, you're starting to manage more and more people and become more of a manager. And when you're a mature company, that's all you do. You're a manager. So it's, learning these different roles and adopting and being very, moldable and quickly into your new position, I think is exciting, and keep learning a lot from that.
Yeah. And also, kind of looking back, if you would give one advice to your younger self, what would that be?
To my younger self is keep learning, never stop learning, and whatever you do, just keep learning. Make sure that you're learning. Once you stop learning, it's not interesting anymore. And then the other thing is, to my younger self, I would say, learn as much as you can about AI, be on top of that, because it's a trend that's going to be, changing productivity and the way we work in the future. And if you're on top of that, then you are a more productive person, and that's going to be important for your career.
Yeah, great advice. And to kind of wrap up this session that we had here, I have some quick questions for you. So the first one is, what's one habit that you think has contributed to your success? One habit, if you had to choose one.
One habit. That's not an easy one. I would say determination.
And who do you learn from?
I would say my biggest idol, and the one that I would love to meet, and I try to learn as much from, is probably Elon Musk.
Okay. Yeah. What would now I got curious. What would your first question be to him?
What drives you?
Yeah, that's a good question. We could get a lot of insights from that simple questions. And lastly, who do you think should be in our next interview?
Elon Musk.
Elon? Oh, unfortunately, yeah. Good luck to me getting in touch with him. That would be a good. Of course, it would be a good episode. Wow, that would be awesome.
But I would say otherwise the founder of Mentimeter.
Mentimeter.
That may be more approachable.
Yeah, I think it would be a little bit easier, not easy, but a little bit easier. So that sounds good. Yes, thank you so much for being here, Cedric, and to giving your advice, sharing your journey. It has been great listening to, and thank you.
Thank you, Cedric. It's been great being part of this and meeting you, and it's been a very nice interview. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for listening, everyone. Don't forget to subscribe to the show to not miss future episodes. See you in the next one.